morning, good evening, good afternoon. I've said on this platform that Zimbabwe is a failed state. There are many, many reasons one can pick why Zimbabwe is a failed state. One of them is that we have got an electorate that is ignorant, naive, and gullible. Zimbabwe would not be a failed state if our people were informed, educated, knowledgeable, and most important of all, diligent in carrying out their sacred duty of holding those in power to account. The ancient Greeks, 2,500 years ago, say that democracy is not possible unless the people are educated, knowledgeable, diligent, and they hold those in public office to account. Democracy as a government of the people, for the people, by the people, it means the people themselves have got to be the one in control. Power rests with the people. And the ultimate power is to hold those whom you entrust with public office to account. But you can only do it if you're knowledgeable. And so you need to be educated. The media's primary purpose in a healthy and functioning democracy is to educate the people, to educate them on their duties, to hold those in public office to account, to make sure that they have got the information to meaningfully hold those in public office to account. Zimbabwe has got the great misfortune of having the two main medias. On the one hand, the so-called public media, which is Zanu PF in all but name, ZBC, television and radio, and all the newspapers, the Herald, the Chronicle. Ever since the country's independence, the public media has been Zanu PF's mouth organ. And those employed in that sector know their primary purpose is to portray Zanu PF in good light. In other words, brainwash people into believing whatever Zanu PF wants them to believe. On the other hand, the public media, the so-called private media, they've been hamstrung by Zanu PF because each time the private media has written anything considered to be critical of the regime, they have been punished one way or the other. Right now, as we know, the journalists like Blessed Mhlanga, whose only crime was to give Blessed Geza coverage when you denounce the Mnangagwa regime. That is his crime, and he has been languishing in jail ever since. Ever since the country's independence in 1980, those who have worked in the private media know that you cross the regime at your own risk. If they're not arrested, they find themselves with lawsuits, one after another. They hardly ever have time to breathe. Others, like the late Jeff Nyarota, faced even worse consequences. When he revealed corruption in Zanu PF in the 80s, in the Willowville motor scandal, he was the editor of the Chronicle, the Zanu PF controlled newspaper. He found himself being promoted upstairs to look after the tea ladies and the cleaners, and ultimately was forced to resign. When he started working for the private media, the private paper he was working for, their printing press was bombed. And one can say that he was a prosecuted man all his life. He died a few months ago now. May his soul rest in peace. Some of the private media have gone one step further. They've become the mouth organ of the opposition parties. Instead of educating the people on their duty to hold the leaders to account, private medias like Change Radio have taken it upon themselves to brainwash the opposition supporters, to call anyone who dares to hold the opposition leader supporters, leaders, to account public enemy number one. Chamisa is a public leader. And whether you come from the opposition or they are in the ruling party, all those who are in public office must be held to democratic account. The reason why Zimbabwe is still a de facto one-party state is because the opposition, the MDC, Triple C, have failed in their duty to bring about the necessary democratic changes to stop Zanu PF rigging elections. The people of Zimbabwe have risked lives, livelihoods, and limbs to elect MDC Triple C leaders into power for the number one task of delivering democratic changes to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. When the party was launched in 1999, that is exactly what they promised. They called themselves the Movement for Democratic Change. But anyone who dares to ask the MDC CCC leaders, what democratic changes have you brought in the last 25 years, including the 5 years in the GNU? They are considered to be enemies of the opposition. They are considered to be hounding Chamisa. Here is Change Radio doing one of their favorite things, filming a group of supporters singing about how anyone who dares to hold Chamisa to account is considered to hate Chamisa. One of their favorite songs recently is Chamisa Mnomvengere. Holding Chamisa to account is tantamount to hating Chamisa. Just listen to this video. How have we come to this? Why is it that if you ask leaders to account for what they've been doing or failed to do, that should ever be considered hating Chamisa, hating the leaders? We have put the leaders on pedestals where we worship them. I believe Chamisa has a lot to account. In 2018, he told his followers that MDC Alliance had stringent measures to stop the Zanu PF rigging the elections. And so the people participated in those elections, convinced that the opposition would win because MDC Alliance has stringent measures to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. There's no need for reforms if you've got measures to stop the rigging. And yet the day after the election, Chamisa himself was the first one to admit that the elections had been rigged. The supporters have never taken Chamisa to task on why he had said he had the stringent measures to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. Fast forward 2023, another idiotic lie. The people were called to participate in those elections because Chamisa told them he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. Nearly 2 million Zimbabweans believed him and voted for him in that election. The day after the voting, he was the one to acknowledge that Zanu PF had once again rigged the elections. When you ask So why did you say he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes? Those who have dared to ask that. Medias like Change Radio have gone after them, accusing them at every opportunity of hating Chamisa. Chamisa mnomvengerei. Why should asking Chamisa to account for his blatant lie, calling people to participate in an election process which ended up giving Zanu PF legitimacy and perpetuating the nation's suffering, considered to be hating Chamisa now? Are we saying Chamisa is untouchable? How can we have a working and functioning democracy when we cannot hold those in public office to account? Chamisa lied to the people of Zimbabwe to con them to participate in the 2023 elections, and they should account for it. To say Chamisa should account for lying to the people is not tantamount to hating him. Here is the BBC holding Chamisa to account for lying on the issue of the Americans were going to fund Zimbabwe if he won the 2018 elections.
Ende patakasangana na Trump akatibvunza navakomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
Serious questions were raised about your behaviour in Washington, D.C. You did see some senior people on Capitol Hill, some Congress people, but you also claimed that you'd seen Donald Trump. You claimed you had a conversation with him in which you said he asked you how much you needed to move the country forward. You told him $15 billion, and he said to you that he would provide the money if you won the election. That was not true, was it?
Sangana na Trump akatibvunza navakomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
It was not true that you'd seen Donald Trump and that Donald Trump indicated to you that he would provide, if you won the election, $15 billion.
All those statements were said by other people, not what I said.
Kasangana na Trump akatibvunza navakomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
Well, no, because there is a video which shows you at a rally in January back home in Zimbabwe saying that Donald Trump had pretty much promised you $15 billion. To be clear, because some people in Zimbabwe are still confused, you're now telling me you did not meet Donald Trump.
We did not.
We really have to grow up as a nation. We cannot have it both ways. If we truly want a healthy and functioning democratic Zimbabwe, we have to have the courage to hold those in public office to democratic account. And we must have the courage to denounce those who, instead of educating the people, are brainwashing the people. Telling people that those who hold leaders to account hate the leaders is the most irresponsible thing one could say. Particularly for a radio station that pretends that it is campaigning for change. MDC was a party founded to deliver democratic change. And yet, it seems the party has learned all the dirty tricks that Zanu PF has adopted. And they've used them for their own selfish purpose. Zanu PF is brainwashing people with its own public media. And now we find private opposition parties have got these private media houses who are doing the same thing, brainwashing people to do the wrong thing. Zimbabwe will be facing elections come 2028. We cannot afford to participate in those 2028 elections to perpetuate the Zanu PF dictatorship. We have learned over and over again the sheer futility of participating in these flawed elections. We cannot keep on repeating the same mistake. Leaders like Nelson Chamisa should be held to account. The people should understand that Nelson Chamisa lied to them when he said he had plugged all the vote-rigging loopholes. They should not believe him again come 2028. Because if they do, they will participate in those flawed elections and give Zanu PF legitimacy. I am looking forward to the day when our opposition or our private media houses out there start taking their responsibility of educating the people seriously. It is not the media's duty to brainwash the people, particularly those who pretend that they are fighting for democracy. This has got to change. Leaders are accountable to the people. Democracy only works if the power rests with the people. And the ultimate expression of that power is for the people to hold those in public office to account. How anyone can pretend that doing so tantamounts to hating the opposition beggars belief. Thank you very much. Have a good night.